Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Globetrotter Newscast for today, the 23rd of May. Yes, welcome to the Globetrotter Newscast, 23rd of May. I'm your presenter, Charlie Tolhurst, live across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter tonight. And I'm joined by a Labour Party supporter, motorsport fan, Zach Chambers, to round up all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello. Hello.
Hi, Zach. Lots to talk about tonight. I want to start off with COVID-19 now because there's been more talk about the India variant again and also a new mutation, which I'll get onto in a minute. But yes, vaccines look like they're effective against this strain. Pfizer have confirmed that 2 doses of the vaccine gives around 88% protection, whilst the AstraZeneca vaccine that Oxford University have created gives around 60% protection after 2 doses. Zach, what do you make about the latest findings from AstraZeneca and Pfizer?
Yeah, Charlie, it's good news, isn't it, mate? I'm impressed with these findings. 81%, I think it was, if I remember, Charlie, from Public Health England. That's from the data dump that's just dropped overnight. I saw. So yes, that's promising news, Charlie. They've also got the evidence in. And you know, that's good. It may be that we get our 21st of June lifting of COVID restrictions, which is going to be fantastic to hear. And that's really crucial, Charlie. I think that's really crucial. Just the good news, because we were a little bit worried about it. I think, Charlie, weren't we? Just because of, you know, India have been suffering with COVID, lots about it. And I think I got a little bit optimistic because looking at it, Charlie, I read this report, this study, this viewable study that came in from India last week that showed that there was about, I think it was about 80% efficiencies, 90% protection against COVID when they took the jab, and this was based on the AstraZeneca one. So yeah, I think I knew that once then. You know, I knew once that I saw that I had some hope for the vaccines, and yeah, it's turned out to be good, hasn't it, Charlie? It's turned out to be good work, and it does appear to be effective, which is, as I said many times, good news.
It is, Zach, as well. We're down now. I think the government have opened the vaccinations up for 32-year-olds, if I'm correct now. So we are starting to go down the age cohorts quite rapidly now. However, though, there's been this mutation in, I think, Yorkshire that had some scientists scratching their heads a little bit. It is a triple mutation. It's been discovered in Yorkshire. It is the one that I think has been sort of a little bit concerning. However, though, I am confident it is not going to be that it won't cause severe disease. I'm hoping it's not going to be any more as lethal as the standard COVID strain. Is this one something that people should be thinking about very closely and surveying this?
Well, if you just start right about one, then comes another, Charlie. I mean, you know, not our luck, is it? But yeah, looking at this, Charlie, the mutant, the triple mutant variant in Yorkshire. God, it sounds like you just gave birth to 3 aliens in one go by the sounds of it. But yeah. There's nothing, you know. I'm reading into this. Doesn't seem to be. It's a variant under investigation. It's not one under concern so far, like the Indian variant. This one's called the VU21 May01 or AV1 as they call it. Currently PHE saying evidence this variant causes more severe disease and renders the vaccine currently deployed and it's effective. Additional testing traces have been carried out in Yorkshire and the Humber region. But yes, this apparently has obviously variant elements of the Kent variant, which is a more transmissible. It's also got elements of the South African variant as well, which is, you know, possibly evade the vaccine, which is the last thing you want to see. That's not the one. That's not good if that does the case. we don't know how it arrived. We don't know how it was made. Was it someone got it off another here or somewhere else? I don't know, but yeah, it only appears to be about 40, 60, 49 cases so far, Charlie. So hopefully it's not going to cause too much concern. It's only 49. And it was discovered in April. So it doesn't appear to be spreading. We're in the middle of May, Charlie. It doesn't appear to be dramatically spreading, that variant. So promising news, promising, but we need to wait and see, I think.
I think, Zach, as well, when the weather starts getting warmer, I do actually think that could help as well. I mean, the coronavirus will become an issue in the winter with this being a seasonal disease. But this variant from Yorkshire is one that is still a variant under investigation. We'll let you know when that rises to a variant of concern status. But that's all there from really the UK's COVID-19. The vaccinations, Zach, the government have really gone the extra mile now in vaccine doses. I believe in the last 24 hours, the actual figure for the number of vaccinations was something like over 700,000, I think.
Yeah, that's fantastic news. And I think the reason why this is, Charlie, we get into the big figures now, is that we are, the UK is vaccinating more people overall. You got the leftovers from those who need their second doses that are coming forward to get their second doses when required, which is brilliant. And you also got, you're also increasing the eligibility. My goodness, what a mouthful I just said there. Eligibility. Can't spell that tonight. Of those who can get their first dose. So, for example, I believe those ages 32. I think 37 above under 40s into the 32 ranges are now eligible for the first dose of what presumably would be recommended, the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine. Well, AstraZeneca can be given to you, but they recommended it is something
unless you're a second dose. Unless you have a second dose of that one.
Unless you're a second dose, yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's the cause of such an uptick, and I think oh my goodness me, I can't spell tonight.
Nadeem Zahawi.
Zahawi. I'm losing my words tonight. I don't know why. My English is going. But it said on the airwaves recently that the number that could be vaccinated each day could go up to 800,000, or even to the millions of ranges, which would be quite something. So yeah, that is a stonking number in terms of that, and that is brilliant. The more we vaccinate, obviously, the more we can get to herd immunity, potentially the threshold, which is up about 85-90%. I think they said last time around about that. But that's the threshold to get herd immunity as well. But we're vaccinating more and more people every day, and that's the main thing. Less chance of the virus transmitting, obviously, as well. So
Zach, I've just got a couple of tweets there from Nadeem Zahawi and Matt Hancock. I'm just going to read them out quickly. Nadeem Zahawi just tweeted 4 hours ago today and says, "The 5 dozen done, over 60 million doses administered in the United Kingdom. Together, we will defeat this virus. Team UK at NHS UK." And then pictures there of jabs and the United Kingdom flag, the Union Jack. And Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, tweeting there as well. Huge day for the vaccinations yesterday. 762,361 vaccines were administered. We've now done 60 million vaccines across the UK. This is a fantastic milestone in our fight against the virus. Thank you to everyone involved in our national effort. And please listen to this tagline below. It's really important. When you get the call, get the jab. Please come forward for your vaccine if you can. And Zach, I want to move on to some other areas of the country like Bolton and Greater Manchester now, where there have been cases of the India variant found, and apparently vaccinations there are extending to the over 18s. And has Andy Burnham got his promise here?
It looks like he's got his promise. In fact, as well, Charlie, I see as well that local health officials are defying some of the government recommendations just to do it the normal way, like vaccinate the 32s and stuff like that. Some of the health officials are actually, going as far as the 18s and over. I can't blame them, to be fair. I can't really blame them, because this Indian variant is more transmissible. And you think about those 32 and under that still haven't been vaccinated, there could be a big portion there in Bolton that haven't been vaccinated, that do need vaccinating to stop this variant spreading and catching them unnecessarily. So I can't blame them, really. I know it's they're breaking a little bit of guidance, but you can kind of feel relieved that these people are getting vaccinated. It looks like the test positivity rate as well, Charlie. Oh, excuse me. It looks like the test positivity rate is actually going down in Bolton. It looks like they're making progress there, because I think it's gone down significantly in Bolton. Let me try and look this up, actually.
Yeah, I heard Zach, like the figures, the cases may rise a little bit. They have been going down, but obviously, because we're coming out of lockdown, there is going to be more people mixing, and that is going to mean potentially more people will test positive. But because majority of all the vulnerable people have now been fully vaccinated, the death toll is going to be very low, and that shouldn't transmit into extra hospitalisation. So it seems like in Bolton, the variant is, well, being brought under control. The squashing the curve very well.
Yeah.
In Bolton, which is really good.
I just want to mention, Charlie, because it was, I believe, Wednesday's press conference where Dr. Jenny Harris was with Matt Hancock. Hang on, was it Matt Hancock? I think it was Matt Hancock.
Yes.
Where Jenny Harris praised Sefton. Just looking here, Sefton, yes, that's it. Where the there we go. Where they've had the Indian variant, and they've dealt with it quite well, I believe, because their case rates are dropping, actually. So 8 people in that area tested positive for COVID. 2 weeks earlier, there was 36. So it looks like there has been some progress there in Sefton. Bolton, those things are a little bit more difficult. Fried, 321 per 100,000 in Bolton, compared by last Friday, compared to 82 per 100,000 on May the 1st. So that paints a little bit of a different story there, which is probably why the vaccinations come out a little bit faster there, and understandably so. But yeah. So there's a tale of two stories in this, Charlie, I think. Some areas are controlling it quicker than others, and they need to get it controlled in Bolton particularly, I think.
Yeah. I think as well, Zach, the sage experts' gloomy predictions seem to be getting undone now. Because I remember the predictions I read up the other week about the hospitalisation and deaths if we didn't act. I think the vaccine rollout has really changed the odds now against the virus, certainly, especially in these local areas where there have been cases of the India variant, and it's really starting to ramp up. I know there's some surge testing that's been deployed across parts of London to combat the Indian variant, but it really seems now that the vaccinations in many areas of the country uptake is really starting to improve, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it just shows in the numbers. 700,000 getting vaccinated per day just yesterday was that's great. UK is one of the best in the continent of Europe, not the European Union, but the continent of Europe has certainly blown the waters out in terms of its vaccine program. Politically it's working out for the Conservatives, no doubt about it. As well, we just shown it in the local elections, but here as well, it's going well for them. This vaccine program has been a success, Charlie. There's no doubt about it. We are talking about it every week. That's the main thing about it. It's not out the news. Like vaccines. It's a connecting with the public. This is always going to be the license story in this, and this is working. It's working, Charlie. No doubt about it. It's working well. It's the data's coming in it's very positive, not in terms of COVID, but positive in the way the data is trending in terms of vaccines and in cases. Well, it went up a little bit over the last few days. Because of these Indian variant concerns. But the more vaccinated, I think that cases was going to start.
Cases will probably start dropping. Yeah. I mean, the death sack as well, they're plummeted massively over the last few weeks. But the vaccine rollout is starting to have an effect on this. I think June the 21st, I know there's been a little bit of the media have been a little bit saying, oh, this could affect the reopening next month. I'm confident, actually, we can do this. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I feel optimistic. Yeah. I know there is problem. There are some caveats, though. I know that is all the end of all legal restrictions, and you've got young people that may be unvaccinated. But is it right that Britain should get back to some kind of normality soon to help rebuild the economy and kickstart it?
Yeah, no doubt about it. There should be a return to more normal life soon, because you know all about it. And I think we're going to achieve it. I think, Charlie, I think it's going to be achieved. The data, this Indian variant has, we got a little bit worried first because we didn't know what the data is in terms of vaccines. And I think if it evaded the vaccine, it would have been on a different story by now. But it's not evaded the vaccines. It might moderately or tinily on the first dose by the looks of it. But on the second dose, it looks like it's doing its job. The vaccine is working, and we can all just chill out a little bit again, Charlie. I think a week or two of excitement of the Indian variant is gone now. We can all chill out a little bit, and hope no more mutated monsters come along and spoil the party for us.
I'm afraid there will be loads of variants coming up, certainly over there. It's going to be with us forever now. I think there will be loads of new variants. We just got to basically test people. We're in those hotspot areas, and track them down. And it's very important that we genomically sequence these as well. So that is all the news there on COVID-19. I want to move on now, Zach. We're going to move on to motorsport news now. And today was the Monaco Grand Prix, a very famous round in Formula One. I'm probably getting a bit too hyped because the race wasn't the best race of the season. Not certainly by Formula One standards, but there was some huge news for the pole sitter, Charles Leclerc, who sadly did not start the race, and Max Verstappen taking the win in a dominant fashion. And Zach, what did you make of this year's Monaco Grand Prix?
Well, to be fair, in the first couple of days, it certainly wasn't short of drama. I mean, qualifying, you have to say it's one of the best of the year, no doubt about it. But Charles Leclerc, in qualifying, Charlie, learned a lesson what two previous drivers at Monaco did. They caused a red flag to get pole position. Now, who's done that before? Let me think, Charlie. Oh, yes, 2006 at turn 18, Charlie. Michael Schumacher most famously beached it there, causing a red flag, and he was sent to the back of the grid. 10 years later, his German predecessor, Nico Rosberg, ran famously off at turn number 5.
That was Mirabeau, yeah.
Yep. And got pole because he set the fastest lap beforehand. So Charles Leclerc has certainly learned done a lesson of the best of the two of them, and crashing out on his final lap whilst setting the fastest lap beforehand to guarantee him in pole. I mean, yeah, okay, he's not deliberately cheating. Let's just say that for the outset on that, because it was an unfortunate error. You pushed the track limits. Everyone was pushing that track limits, Charlie. No doubt about it. But he did. There was a bit right about the gearbox at the time. It looked like it was okay. And then we get to race day. And on the reconnaissance lap, it all just went pear-shaped for him. It wasn't actually due with the gearbox, apparently. It was due to the drive shaft. the gearbox was fine. So interestingly, I wonder if anything else was damaged in that accident. It could be elements. We don't have the official word from Ferrari or anything like that from whether that was caused by the accident yesterday. But yeah, it was heartbreaking to see Leclerc not even start the race. I mean, he continues 100% record of not finishing at Monaco, which is just, you know, a cursed spirit considering this is his home race, Charlie. But yes, in terms of the race overall, that gave Verstappen a big opportunity, and he took it all to 78 laps, Charlie. He took that opportunity, and yeah, he won the race with a bold start, blocking Bottas, whose car would eventually be basically glued. And what I mean by that, Charlie, was that the right front in Bottas's pit stop literally became super glue. You couldn't get off. Someone did really stick sticky glue in there a little bit too much, and they couldn't get the tire off, so we retired. And that was a brutal retirement. Not something I've seen, Charlie, in my lifetime, in watching Formula One, a car having to retire because they couldn't get the tire off the car. Not something I've ever seen before. But and it got worse as well for Mercedes. Hamilton only finishing 7th today. He got outdone by Pierre Gasly and Sebastian Vettel when he did his stop. I couldn't believe it, Charlie. I mean, how did Vettel Gasly even make it past them? It's quite something. And they also fell behind to Sergio Perez, who had an almighty run, Charlie. I think my driver of the day, certainly for me, who did such a splendid job with the strategy. He went from 9th and then 8th. Well, yeah, at the time, easy will be 8th because he was started thanks to Verstappen. Sorry, Leclerc. Sorry,
he started, yeah.
DNS. Yeah. He he managed to get through. Got stuck behind Vettel, I think, at the early stages. Then changed and obviously pitted. And a whopper of a run, I have to say, Charlie. Whopper of a run. And he managed to squeeze himself into 4th position. Could have actually got a podium had it not been for, being stuck behind Lando Norris, who, by the way, 2nd podium this season. What a great job. And a shout out as well, Charlie, to Carlos Sainz in 2nd position. What a race. What a weekend for him. That's probably best weekend yet at Ferrari, who were on form. They've found a pace somewhere, Charlie. But 2nd for Carlos Sainz. It's an unusual podium where we don't see Mercedes on there as well. And I think that's Mercedes' worst finish since Germany 2019, when it famously rained. Everyone started going off the track. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yes. Yep, you're right. That was Germany 2019. I remember that race because Bottas crashed out with a few laps to go. And Hamilton was nowhere in that race. And yeah, I'll go over the order now. Standings for the race. Verstappen won the race for Red Bull with Carlos Sainz 2nd for Ferrari, Lando Norris 3rd for McLaren, Perez 4th, Sebastian Vettel 5th place, driver of the day for Aston Martin, with Pierre Gasly 6th for AlphaTauri, Lewis Hamilton 7th, Lance Stroll 8th for Aston Martin, Esteban Ocon 9th for Alpine, and Antonio Giovinazzi completing the points. Formula One will head to Baku in a couple of weeks' time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Action will be on, and I'll just get the date up for you now. That is the 3rd to the 5th of... the 4th to the 6th of June for that one. And that will be the Azerbaijan Grand Prix from Baku on that one. We're going to move on now, Zach, to... we'll move on to IndyCar in a minute. NASCAR now. Last week, another driver won a race. I believe it was another second-time winner. I think it's Alex Bowman who took the win last week.
Yes,
I might be wrong there. It was Alex Bowman. What do you make of that last week's race, actually, in NASCAR?
Good race. Good win for Alex Bowman as well. His time has been waiting for that sort of victory.
That was at Dover. Apologies there where he was.
Dover. Yeah. We've been waiting for that. Dover is a very strong track traditionally for Hendrick Motorsport because Jimmy Johnson has won there many times, and this is a generally strong track, and they continue the dominance there with Alex Bowman winning, and I'm not surprised really because Hendrick is strong. He did really well throughout the race and won it, so fair play.
Yeah, fair play. We actually have a race on at the moment, which is at COTA. They're actually racing. The Cup Series are actually going to the Circuit of the Americas at
And
the
it's
moment.
raining, Charlie. And it's raining, can I just say as well, just for what I've seen. It is currently raining. And it's causing a bit of a carnage, I see, as well. It is pouring down. They're racing on a road course, so they can race in the rain. And stage 2 has already claimed a few. One, Kevin Harvick, I see, Christopher Bell. Blaney has been damaged. Joey Logano has won the opening stage of the one at COTA at the moment. But yes, Matt DiBenedetto, Ryan Byron coming together as well. Quite the scene going into turn 1 as well, I have to say, in the wet. Daniel Suarez having a few problems as well. It's all going off, Charlie. Racing in the wet. Who can you not like that in NASCAR? How can you not like that? So the race is still ongoing at the moment. And let me just try and check who is
leading is Logano currently at the moment. 21 laps gone.
Fair enough. Yeah, Logano's leading. He won stage 1. Anything can happen though. Charlie, we're on lap 20 and they're under caution for several wrecks and in a wet weather, so anything could happen yet, Charlie, I think.
Yeah, I think Kyle Busch won the Xfinity race, if I believe in wet, and also in the same style conditions. It was a wet race. They've had the wet weekend, haven't they, NASCAR, and even in the Camping World Truck Series. So it's a really interesting event. I'm not sure where NASCAR go next week, and I'm just double checking. Oh, they go to Charlotte, big one, Coca-Cola 600 next week, the longest race of the season.
Longest race of the stage.
It's a big one, Zach, isn't it? The Coca-Cola 600, because it's at Charlotte International Raceway, where they've actually got the Roval course as well.
Yeah, they're racing on the Speedway, and then the Roval comes later in the season, Charlie. But yeah, they're racing at the Speedway for the longest race of the season and one of the most traditional races, well-known races in NASCAR of the season.
Yeah, the Coca-Cola 600. If you've had the fizzy drink, it's the Coca-Cola 600, and that will be on next weekend. And action will be on the 30th of May. But moving on now to the Indianapolis 500. Qualifying taking place. I believe we've got the Fast 9 session on tonight, I think, here in the UK.
I just think it's just finished, Charlie. And I can confirm to you that Scott Dixon got pole position. That's his 4th time he's been on pole, I believe, as well. So Scott Dixon averaging 231.685 miles an hour on a 4-lap average, because that's how it works in qualifying in Indianapolis. You do a 4 laps and you go as fast as you can. But goodness me, Scott Dixon, 4th pole position for his 4th in 500 as well. That's quite good as well. Let me give you the other. Try and give you the other order. So it was behind him. It was Colton Herta, 2nd. Venus Rique 3rd. Ed Carpenter 4th. Tony Khan 5th. Alex Plove 6th. Hunter Race 7th. Castaneris 8th. And Marcus Ericsson in 9th. That's the Fast 9 as well. Also, one I have to say, positive news out of this. Moni Deal Sylvester made the Indy 500 just made it to top 33. Didn't get knocked out the Indy 500. She just made itself way into the top 30 as well. So great news. Oh dear,
Yeah.
great news there.
I'm glad to see that she's made it into the event. I'm glad.
Scott Dixon on the pole for the Indy 500, Charlie.
Scott Dixon on pole for the Indy 500. I'm just trying to see if we can get the news up for you. And yes, Scott Dixon there. IndyCar finally uploaded the article. Scott Dixon on pole for the Indy 500. Fastest in the first 9 there as well. Colton Herta second. Rinus VK will be the 2 youngest drivers in the field. Of course, in Colton Herta and Rinus VK both joining Dixon on the front row. Alex Palau did have a huge crash the other day, I believe. However, though, he is okay, and I believe he was actually in the Fast 9, was Alex Palau. I'm just getting up there. Yeah, he's 6th place for Alex Palau. They've obviously got his car repaired, and he's racing. He obviously took part in qualifying and finished P6. So the Indy 500 will be on next weekend from Sky Sports F1, I believe. It's also going to be available on multiple American channels and NBC, Fox Sports as well. And that will be next week. And I think it's going to be around 7:30 in the UK when we get the green flag at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the 500. So please, guys, tune into this event next weekend. One of the biggest events of motor racing history will be on the Indianapolis 500. We're going to move on now to Eurovision. I will mention this because Eurovision is a very famous very famous competition, and Italy claiming the win with a very huge rock hit. And Zach, what did you make of this year's competition?
Oh, do you know what, Charlie? I love Eurovision. Every year it comes on. It's just one of the novelty song contests that you cannot let go of. I have to say, Charlie, I mean, it's if you listen to the Italian song, and you listen to it the first time, you think, well, how the hell was this one won? But no, it did win. It's a rock song. I like the fact that rock song was one as well, Charlie, because you think rock song is not really that typical audience loving thing, but I suppose it's more of the they voted him based on the costumes and the mad moves and the shouting, really. But I like the Italian song. I do like rock songs, I have to say, Charlie. I do like rock songs. But I have to say, Charlie, as well, the biggest moment of this year, I have to say, Eurovision, is the UK getting nil point from the jury and the public. This is the first time. I know we are crap at Eurovision every year. This is the first time I think we got nil point since 2004, Charlie. I don't understand how we are so useless at Eurovision, Charlie. I don't get it. I mean, how are we so useless? We need better performances. We need better people singing it. But, you know, the performance was a bit crap at the end of the day. I mean, the song was good.
It was Embers, James Newman. That was the song that was performing for us.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm surprised about and didn't get much love by the public was the song by Malta. I mean, it sounded a bit crazy, but Malta was really good. I mean, Malta was just so entertaining. You know, in the song contest, Charlie, that was so entertaining. I mean, it sounds really bizarre as well. You also had Israel, Charlie, as well. Israel, that singer there did the highest voice out in the
17 seconds. It was incredible how long she held it for. 17 seconds.
Yep. But this is the one I'm going to play. I'm just going to get my phone now. This is the one I really liked. As long as I don't get oh god, I've got adverts playing on here. I'm going to put this on my phone. But this is the one I really liked, Charlie. This is the Malta one. I'm just going to get up as long as the adverts stop playing on here. But Malta's one was sung by It's by G. Macassi for Malta. This is the one I really liked. Let me play this for you.
Just give all the listeners, this is Malta's Eurovision Song Contest hit song.
It just gets better. It gets better at the end. I'm just going to skip to the end here, Charlie, because it gets better throughout this.
Yeah, right as well. This song that sounded like, I don't know where Malta came in the Eurovision, but that song sounds really good.
Here we go. It's such, the singer's so good as well. I believe he's
a good singer in that one.
20-something, yeah. Yeah. So that's Malta. I mean, that was brilliant as well. I'm just going to play a brief bit of the Italian winning Eurovision song, because
yes, this is the Italian song now.
Here you go. I'm just going to skip through get through the rocky bit. So this is it. You won't understand the words of it.
It's all Italian.
Yeah.
I saw the costumes as well for Italy. My goodness.
Now, there's been a bit of controversy around the Italian because there was an accusation that one of the performers in there was, whilst on the the dugout where on the stage where they all sit and represent, there was allegations, Charlie, that one of the people was snorting drugs on stage. Now, this has been refuted by the Italians, and they're actually going to take a voluntary drug test to prove this. So the controversy has actually not ended there. It would be quite something if they did end up taking drugs. I mean, they did look. I mean, if you think about them running around on the stage, they look like they're taking drugs. Obviously, no, they probably weren't. But the drama's not over yet. But that's our that was the Italian entry. I can't remember a single word from it because it's all in Italian.
No, I can't either.
I remember it. Just know it's a rock song. And it's certainly one of the madder songs that that's come out. None of them, I think it's none madder than the Israel song though that came in a few years ago. It was what I call the Chicken Girl, where she's going.
No.
I'm sure we remember that one because it was called Toy, and it sounded more like more of a toy chicken than an actual toy singing.
It sounds like Eurovision, Zach, had got some great songs. It's really interesting, unique.
Absolute crap.
It was interesting this year.
Yeah, the problem is we are so crap at it that we get nil points for the first time since 2004. Some journalists were speculating whether Brexit played into effect on that. I'm sure the Europeans really do hate us. Just to prove that the Europeans really do hate us, we get nil points.
Yeah, that would be worse if it was Brexit, I'd have thought. We'll say that.
Yeah.
I think as well, Zach, as well, I just wanted to touch on something from Eurovision as well. I thought there was some news that there was going to be I had read up as well that it was going to be dominated by the Israel-Gaza thing that's happening at the moment. As well. I was going to touch on this and move on. I think it seems like is there a ceasefire that's been agreed between the two, or things still getting out of control?
No, there has been a ceasefire, thankfully, Charlie, between the IDF and Hamas. I know this is an intense negotiation behind the scenes from various countries, such as the US. I know they're in touch with Israel, Egypt, Palestine itself. But yeah, there has been a ceasefire. How long the ceasefire will last for can say, because it depends on the actions of Israel, the actions of Palestine, the actions of Hamas, and the Israeli Defense Force. But I'm glad there is a ceasefire because this is just This is devastated hundreds of people, innocent civilians across, Israel and Gaza. But yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah. So I hope it's a shame what's happened, and there needs to be change, Charlie. But I'm glad there is a ceasefire.
Yeah, I heard that President Biden was getting in on the act with that as well. He was calling for de-escalation intentions. So was Dominic Raab. as well. So we're going to move on from Eurovision now. I'm going to actually finish off by talking about the United States now. And we're going to cover COVID and I'll also cover a few other things as well from the US. And Zach, in terms of COVID vaccinations, I heard the US was sort of dipping down slightly on that with their averages.
There's been a slight dip, but there has been an increase recently, Charlie. I think it's thanks to some incentives that some governors in the US are offering. I think in Ohio, Charlie, they're offering that if you get a vaccine, you could enter into some $5 million lottery or something like that, and you could win $5 million, which is quite incredible and quite the incentive. And there's actually been, I believe, a 40% uptick in vaccinations in Ohio actually since that offer incentive was announced. But there's several, in New York. You get free burgers if you take the vaccine and everything like that. You could be offered free burgers. That would be something. You could be given extra pay in some areas, employment if you get the vaccine. In some states, that's how they're offering. But the vaccines has actually gone up since these incentives come in, Charlie. And that's very helpful. But they're going up for some very good pace. They had dipped, but they're making progress again, I think, Charlie, from looking what I'm reading. So good news there.
Yeah.
And we have seen scenes for the first time, Charlie, of no such thing as social distancing and maskless indoors events at the White House now since the updated CDC guidance came in, suggesting that you don't need a mask now when you're fully vaccinated. And you don't need to socially distance. So we've seen more of that. We've seen more handshaking, more tapping the back, less social distancing, less mask. A bit very much like normal, Charlie, inside the White House. So it feels like it's really getting back to normal in the US.
Yeah.
That's good news.
As well as that, Zach, I've been hearing, obviously, with Joe Biden, that he's due to make a visit to the UK very soon. I'm not sure whether that's to do with the G7 summit, if I'm correct.
It is. It will be to do with the G7, which is taking place across the 11th to 13th of June. So not far off, Charlie. But he will be traveling to G7, which is in Cornwall. He will have a bilateral meeting with the UK Prime Minister. So that will be the first bit of action between the UK and Joe Biden, which will be very interesting to see, Charlie, no doubt about it, as well.
As the G7 summit taking place next month here in Cornwall in the UK. But we're going to finish off, Zach, now by talking about this holiday. It's the UK's traffic light system for foreign holidays. Now, last week, madness erupted on the news about should you be travelling to amber list countries? Should you be travelling to green list countries? There has been a lot of controversy on this, Zach. And last week, I heard Grant Shapps, I think Kwasi Kwarteng, the business secretary, and Matt Hancock were all asked questions by journalists about this traffic light system. And I was left a bit confused, Zach, about how this system works, especially defying whether amber list countries are actually safe to travel to. What do you make of this?
Well, yeah, this has been absolute chaos across communications department for whether you should be traveling to amber list countries or not. And the original message, there was George Eustace the other day claiming that, you might be able to go on holiday on amber list, and then Matt Hancock temporarily shutting them down and saying next day, no, you can't. He also had the Michelle Donnelly, the university's minister, saying that, you might want to go for a little holiday there and see your family and all that sort of thing. And then, Matt Hancock saying no, the other next day. So, so this is absolute chaos in terms of communication, whether you should be traveling to amber list countries for holidays. The official guidance is according to the Health Secretary, that you should not be traveling there for holidays. Now, thinking about that, Charlie, what is the purpose of an amber list? I mean, it's like basically similar to the red list, but without hotel quarantine. What is the purpose of it? There isn't.
I don't understand
It's
it.
exactly
I really
it's
don't.
exactly the same thing. You might as well just have green and red lists, and then you got all sorted then, and then put hotel quarantine enforcements for those sort of thing. There has been the communication and rules around it have been a shambles. What is the point as well? If that's the case, what is the point of the amber list, Charlie? There is none. It's all vulnerable, really.
I don't understand this.
There's no point of it.
I mean, Zach, this Keir Starmer raised this last week at PMQs. I mean, Boris Johnson said last week during Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister said here in the UK that people should only be travelling to amber list countries in extreme circumstances. And yet I've seen some people say, oh, we're going to go on holiday to, I don't know, somewhere like Spain or Italy. Yet Portugal, I mean, I've been hearing Spain are going to reopen to British tourists from tomorrow. Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister there, announcing that the other day. Yet Spain is on the UK's amber list. Like, some countries are opening up their borders to UK citizens. I'm like, what is going on with this system? It's just really, it's really confusing.
Yeah. It is a mess, Charlie. There's also green countries that you can't travel to because they close they're closed. They're currently not allowing tourists, but they were still on the green list by the UK. So, and yet some of them are still not accepting tourists in. You also have amber list countries that apparently you apparently told you could maybe be able to travel to, but you can't travel to now. And then you've also got the red list, which you can't travel anyway. So yeah, this is a mess. It needs to be fixed, Charlie. I can even hear you laughing because we know it's such a mess. So yeah,
I'm just so
sort it out. That's what I say.
I think they're gonna have to overhaul this. I think. Do you know what I mean? Do we need to have a comprehensive hotel quarantine system to protect ourselves, not just maybe from new variants of COVID, but also to stop people? Because I see at Heathrow Airport. Okay, they've opened up one of the new terminals in Terminal 3 for people coming from red list countries. We don't want people from red list countries mingling and mixing with people coming from, say, amber list countries or green list countries, because that is potentially a room where exposure can occur to COVID-19.
Yeah, and that's been another problem, by the way, Charlie, is the mingling between those who have been on the green list and those who've been people who've been on the green, coming from green list country, and people who've been red list country. That's not a pretty sight, and that's a potential for a virus spreader, Charlie. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad there's been a new terminal that's been opened, but that shouldn't be got to the point where everyone's mingling in different areas and different zones, and they could be holding variants on them, Charlie. That's been another shambles. It's been, I have to say, diabolical, really, for the last week or so. This communications and the setup and everything like that. It shouldn't be taking something like this to be happening, Charlie. It should have all been in place. We shouldn't be having an amber list. We should either have a UK or a green list or red list. The amber list has no purpose now if they're not allowed to go on holiday. There's no purpose of it at all, Charlie. Absolutely none.
It's just crazy, Zach.
Morphed into
I agree.
the list.
I just think as well, this system is just really confusing, and this has been another one of the UK government's bad points during this pandemic. It's been the way the communication has been between the government and the public, not being clear enough, not being explicit enough about information, about how this guidance works. We're like all confused. One thing we can do this, the next day we can do that. This is ridiculous. And I'm frankly fed up with I don't want to slam the Tory party here, but I'm going to say that some of the messaging has been really diabolical. It's been so confusing. Like, they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It keep changing the rules up. People are not going to know what they're going to do. And this foreign holiday system, we really have got two open borders. The borders have just been too lax, I think. Should we be strengthening our borders, Zach, during this pandemic? Final question.
I don't mind, I don't mind, at this time of day, the time of year where people want to go on holidays and, we've done a good vaccine program and stuff like that. And, Europe's open up to vaccinated countries, vaccinated UK residents soon, I believe, which is now another area as well where people will be able to go. But at the same time as well, Charlie, there's no purpose of the amber list, and there's no purpose of there's no purpose of saying go to holiday on the amber list if you're going to be the same on the red list, because you just might as well morph it into the red list and put hotel quarantine there. So that's how I see it, Charlie, and that's how I think it should be. You have a green list where you can go on holiday freely without having to quarantine, or have a red list where you need to hotel and quarantine from those countries. I think it needs to be a green or a red. It can't be an amber if it's just going to access the same thing as a red.
Yeah, Zach, I agree. I think the system's got to be. I think there's got to be changes to it coming up soon. I clearly think we could probably going to hear more from this over the next few weeks. We're certainly going to hear from Boris, I think, on the news on social distancing and face masks as well. I believe there's going to be an announcement on that, and potentially COVID certification could be used as a new form of lives as well. I'll keep you updated. And the last question, Zach, before you go, what do you think is going to be happening with the COVID certification? And will there be an announcement on this potentially?
I think it's now going to be slimmed down to several events only, such as nightclubs and big stadium events in the future. And maybe clubs and stuff like that. I cannot see it being used in pubs, bars, and other stuff. It's going to be very limited. I think may not be used at all at this rate, from what I've read. They might find it's not worth the time and effort to introduce. But yeah, I think it'll be, if it does get introduced, it'll be very limited, and it won't be introduced until, I say, maybe August, because of the need to vaccinate the the 18s and over, really, and everywhere.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
In that respect.
There we go. Yeah.
Well, that's it, guys. I'm going to actually have to round the podcast off there. Thank you so much for watching the Globetrotter Newscast Day. I've been Charlie Towers. You've been watching live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. And we'll see you again next week for another instalment of the Globetrotter Newscast. In the meantime, everyone in the UK, please stay safe. Remember, hands, face, space, and fresh air. Thank you for listening, everyone. Take care and good night.